Has anyone ever told you you're an old soul? Or maybe you just feel like you've basically been an adult your entire life. Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into. We're going to unpack why some of us feel like we grew up way, way too fast and the powerful psychology behind that feeling. So let me ask you this. You finally sat down after a really long day, right? You have a moment to just breathe, to relax. But instead of feeling relieved, this wave of guilt just washes over you. Your brain starts spinning, listing off all the things you should be doing. If that sounds even remotely familiar, trust me, you are not alone, and there's a very real reason for it. And here's the thing. People who feel this way are often seen by others as being incredibly responsible, super mature, wise beyond their years. But that's the paradox, isn't it? The very same wiring that makes you so capable is also the thing that ties your entire sense of self-worth to how productive you are. It makes genuine, guilt-free rest feel almost impossible. Okay, so what is at the root of all this? Well, it often traces back to a psychological concept called parentification. It sounds a little academic, but let's break down what it really means. So, parentification is essentially when the roles in a family get flipped upside down. The child, instead of being the one who's cared for, becomes the caregiver. And this can happen in a couple of ways. It can be instrumental, like you're the one managing household chores, maybe even bills, or taking serious care of younger siblings. Or it can be emotional, where the child becomes the parent's confidant, their mediator, or the emotional rock for the entire family. And wow, this comparison really just makes it crystal clear. On the left, you see what childhood is supposed to be about, right? Learning, playing, getting support. But for the parentified child on the right, the reality is completely different. They aren't just helping out. They are actively managing the household and, this is the huge part, they're tasked with regulating the emotions of the adults around them. So when you live through that as a kid, it's really no surprise that the first major sign we see in adulthood is that deep, nagging guilt that shows up the second you even try to rest. It's this feeling that your value is completely tied to what you're doing for other people. It's that little voice in your head, right? That internal script, I should be doing something productive right now. It's totally automatic. It doesn't matter if you've worked a 12-hour day or just finished a huge project. The moment you stop, that voice kicks right in because your brain was wired from a young age to believe that resting is irresponsible. And here's the connection, psychologically speaking. If being the responsible one was your normal in childhood, your brain learned that your value, and maybe even your safety, depended on you doing things. So now, as an adult, being inactive isn't just boring. It can actually trigger a subconscious feeling that you're failing at your most basic job. All right, so the second big sign that often comes out of this is something we can call survival independence. It's that knee-jerk reaction to do everything by yourself, which makes it incredibly hard to ask for or even accept help from anyone else. This hyper-independence, it's really fueled by a survival code that got written back in childhood. It's built on this core belief that I can only really rely on myself because, well, you had to. It teaches you that asking for help is a sign of weakness, a luxury you just never had. And that leads to that thought we all know so well. It's just faster if I do it all myself, which only ends up isolating you more. And what's so important to understand here is that this isn't about you being strong or having a type A personality. It's a survival strategy, a very effective one that you learned when you literally had no other choice. You learned early on that if something needed to get done, you were the one who had to do it. So, okay, we've got this guilt about resting and this intense survival independence. Recognizing them isn't just about putting a label on it. It's about understanding where they came from, their origin story, because that's where the real power to change things begins. The whole point of this is never, ever about looking back to assign blame or point fingers. It's about looking inward with some compassion. It's about giving yourself the grace to finally understand that your struggle to relax or your difficulty asking for help, it isn't a character flaw. It's just an echo of an old battle that you had to fight. And listen, those coping mechanisms, they absolutely forged the resilient, capable person you are today. That strength is so real. But having this awareness gives you a powerful choice. You can honor the strategies that helped you survive without letting them dictate your entire life now. You get to be the one who writes the next chapter. So to wrap this all up, I want to leave you with a question to reflect on. Thinking about everything we talked about, the pressure to always be productive, the reflex to do it all alone, what is just one burden, one I should, that you could give yourself permission to set down, even just for today?